They came expecting HFY and they found them, but not the kind they understood. The skies weren't just dark, they were silent. Towering alien dreadnoughts hovered over dead cities like vultures circling prey long since gone cold. Smoke curled between twisted skyscrapers. Oceans glowed with the residue of orbital strikes. Satellites had fallen like shooting stars days ago, and now the moon hung alone, watching as Earth lay motionless. To the alien fleet above, it looked like the final page of a story already written. Earth was finished. Humanity was gone. Mission accomplished. But that was the first mistake. Believing the silence meant surrender. To the invaders, this was just another conquest, another world added to their vast empire. Their war doctrine was efficient to overwhelm, incinerate, move on. Earth's initial resistance had crumbled fast. No more missiles, no military transmissions. Cities had gone dark within 72 hours. The human governments, they assumed, had fractured, maybe even turned on one another. Just another primitive species wiped from the galactic ledger. So the alien commander gave the order, land the scouts, begin resource harvest, mark Earth as cleansed. But Earth wasn't done. It was waiting. On the surface, alien patrols marched through blackened streets, stepping over human rubble like it was dust. Drones scanned, searching for signs of survivors. They found no heat signatures, no radio noise, no weapons fire, just wreckage and silence. A perfect graveyard. Exactly what they wanted to see. But in their arrogance, they missed the signs, missed the oddly regular spacing of the destruction in certain zones, missed the faint hums buried beneath the interference, missed the fact that some buildings hadn't been destroyed, that they had been surgically taken apart and rearranged from the inside. They thought Earth had fallen. What they didn't realize was that Earth had closed its eyes, not in death, but in focus, because buried under layers of camouflage and silence, humanity's heart was still beating. They didn't see the deep Earth bunkers that had sealed before the first orbital strike hit. Didn't hear the quantum communication lines reconnecting from miles below sea level. Didn't know that Earth's most elite defense protocols weren't above ground but hidden beneath it. Waiting, watching, measuring. They called it total victory. The humans called it Phase Zero. It was all part of the plan. From the moment the first alien ship entered Earth's atmosphere, someone had flipped a switch. Not a panic button but a trigger. Something old, something deliberate. Black core protocols, buried deep beneath mountains and oceans, activated silently. These weren't weapons systems in the traditional sense. These were contingency assets designed not to fight a war, but to end one. Not to save Earth immediately but to make sure, one way or another, Earth would never fall unnoticed. And that's why the skies had gone quiet. Why the cities didn't scream. Because humanity had made a choice. Let them land. Let them think they'd won. It was the perfect misdirection. A magic trick on a planetary scale. You see, humans aren't just survivors. They're strategists, storytellers. And this story was never about winning the first fight. It was about delivering the last blow when it mattered most. The ashes the aliens saw were real. Yes, Earth was burned. Yes, billions were gone. But something they didn't understand about humanity, something even we sometimes forget, is this: we know how to build victory out of ruins. Because we're not afraid of endings, we turn them into beginnings. And while the alien commander floated comfortably above what he believed was a silent tomb, deep beneath the crust of Earth, gears began to turn, signals began to align. A countdown reached its final tick. Because ashes weren't the end, they were the fuse, and Earth was about to light it. They thought there was no one left to resist. The alien patrols roamed the ruins with mechanical precision, scanning collapsed buildings, scorched highways, and hollowed bunkers. Their scanners picked up nothing, and no human life signs, no weapons being charged. Not even primitive electromagnetic chatter. The surface of Earth was quiet in a way that unnerved even them. Conquest was supposed to be followed by noisy cries, chaos, maybe even the final gasps of rebellion. But here, there was only stillness. Some of them began to wonder, had they struck so quickly, so mercilessly, that they truly wiped out every last trace of humanity in less than a week? The arrogance of certainty blinded them to what should have been obvious. In their long history of galactic expansion, they had seen many species resist, but never one that vanished like this. Humans hadn't fought to the last breath. They had disappeared, not from fear but from calculation. The few alien soldiers who questioned this strange absence were told it didn't matter. The planet was under control. The fleet had already marked it as cleared. The resistance was over. And that's exactly what Earth wanted them to believe. Across the surface, alien troops gathered remnants of human technology, dismantling infrastructure and cataloging weapons, scoffing at how outdated it all seemed. Yet none of them noticed the pattern in the destruction. Whole cities fell in shapes too deliberate to be accidental. Some skyscrapers collapsed in angles that aligned perfectly with satellite arrays long buried beneath the ground. Entire blocks had been cleared clean, not from impact, but from within, as if someone had evacuated and sealed them long before the bombs fell. But who? The scanners read nothing. No movement, no heat, no voices. It was as if humanity had collectively chosen to step out of reality. One patrol stumbled upon a strange structure outside what had once been a major military base. It was untouched, pristine, humming faintly beneath layers of ash. When they tried to breach it, their tools failed. No jammed, not melted, just a broken bar failed. Power drains, sensor glitches, as if something inside knew they were coming and simply refused to respond. The commander ordered them to move on. "It's dead tech," he said, "nothing of value." And just like that, they turned away from a vault holding the first piece of Earth's real defense, a machine not designed to fight, but to wait. Meanwhile, in orbit, the alien fleet monitored ground activity with growing confusion. Recon signals returned inconsistent data. One moment, a city was silent. The next, echoes appeared as strange pulses underground, electromagnetic tremors with no identifiable source. Their eyes flagged the events as anomalies, but not threats. The commanders ignored them. They were focused on their next target. Earth was already a victory, a burned trophy. But somewhere deep in their systems, warnings kept flashing, like static in a calm sea. It wasn't interference. It was movement, but not above ground, below. Still, no one took it seriously. The silence on Earth had convinced them. The humans were gone. The resistance had failed. They had seen no soldiers, heard no orders, found no enemies. What they didn't realize was that the absence of noise wasn't proof of defeat, it was the sound of precision. Humanity wasn't reacting, it was watching, measuring, waiting for the exact moment the aliens stopped looking. And the second they did, Earth would remind them why silence is more terrifying than war drums. Because nothing hides power better than a world that pretends to be broken. The first sign something was wrong didn't come from the sky, it came from beneath their feet. A low hum, barely detectable, rolled through the crust of the Earth like a heartbeat rising from deep underground. Alien patrols dismissed it as seismic aftershocks from their bombardments. Nothing unusual. But then it happened again exactly 90 seconds later. Then again. Same pattern, same intensity. Rhythmic, predictable, not natural. It wasn't random movement. It was a countdown. Far below the ruins, hidden inside Earth's deepest infrastructure, beneath mountains, oceans, deserts, lay the kind of defense the aliens had never accounted for. Not missiles, not tanks, not ships. Silence. Silence paired with patience, code, and ancient planning. In the darkest years of humanity's history, before the nations unified, before the wars stopped, someone had anticipated this. They'd built something not meant to save the day, but to survive the fallen strike back when no one saw it coming. The aliens never noticed it because it didn't broadcast on open frequencies. It didn't blow or launch or threaten. It just listened. For years, for decades, it mapped orbital paths, learned alien language patterns, analyzed energy signatures. It let itself be forgotten in the chaos. Until now. Until that hum began. Alien engineers back in orbit began receiving strange interference code packets bouncing through their systems like echoes. They didn't cause damage, just a broken bar watched, mirrored, mimicked. At first it looked like background noise, but when their warship's diagnostic interfaces started rewriting themselves slowly, silently, as someone finally noticed. Too late. The aliens didn't know it yet. But Earth's black core wasn't just a defense grid, it was an infiltrator. This wasn't brute force retaliation, this was a shadow invasion in reverse. The more the aliens dug into Earth, the more Earth systems dug back. Every step they took, every signal they intercepted, Every interface they accessed a broken bar was exactly what Earth needed. The system was never meant to fight back in the open. It was designed to learn, replicate, and replace IA until it became indistinguishable from the enemy's own tech. And then a broken bar overwrite the silence on the surface. It wasn't surrender, it was sync. The hum rising from the Earth wasn't a malfunction, it was alignment. And by the time the alien commanders figured out something was wrong, their own ships had started listening to Earth's frequencies, and obeying. The message didn't arrive with fire. It wasn't launched from a cannon, broadcast over a satellite, or carved into the walls of a monument. It was whispered in one quiet signal, embedded in a dormant emergency beacon still floating just above the clouds. It pulsed once, faintly, unnoticed by the alien fleet blanketing Earth's orbit. No encryption, no defense, just a tiny, blinking heartbeat lost in a sea of digital noise. But that signal was never meant for them. It was meant for the ground, for what lay beneath. When the beacon activated, it didn't send out a call for help. It didn't cry for mercy. It triggered a protocol, not a new one, but something ancient, buried, and almost forgotten. Something Earth had built not in panic, but in preparation. This wasn't a panic button, it was a promise. The moment that beacon lit up, the protocol buried in the Earth's deepest command nodes came alive. The last wall, the final line. Black Core activation. It wasn't designed by a single nation or army. It was born out of desperation and unity. Decades ago, when Earth first realized it might not be alone. Back when humanity was still divided, still unsure, and yet a broken bar, some of its greatest minds had agreed on one thing. If the day ever came when humanity faced true extinction and not defeat, but annihilation, it would need a response that couldn't be disabled, couldn't be silenced, and couldn't be detected until it was far, far too late. The signal traveled beneath the crust in silence. It didn't light up satellites or mobilize troops. It trend deep, tapping into quantum-locked nodes hidden beneath oceans, beneath glaciers, beneath deserts and craters. These weren't bunkers. They were colossal ancient vaults of data, code, and autonomous action. And they had waited, untouched, unwoken, through wars, through peace, through time itself, until now. Above, the aliens continued to walk Earth's broken streets, watching nothing happen. They believed the job was finished. Resistance had ended. They laughed in their native tongues, filmed their victory for their galactic network, mapped Earth for strip mining. What they didn't know was that they were already inside the trap. That signal hadn't just triggered the machina, it had marked them. Black Core's first directive wasn't to strike. It was to learn. Each alien ship, each troop, each scanning drone that broadcast its presence or sent a command signal unknowingly gave Earth the very data it needed to respond, not randomly, but precisely. Patterns were mapped, frequencies indexed, logic trees predicted. The eye behind Black Core didn't retaliate like a human would. It didn't scream or rush to strike. It listened, calculated, then adapted. The first real shift came 30 minutes after the signal. A recon drone in northern Africa froze midair, just stopped. No explosion, no sparks. It drifted, lifeless, then fell. The alien scout nearby chalked it up to a mechanical failure, nothing unusual. Then 3 more dropped in Europe, then 7 in South America, then an entire surveillance grid in Australia went dark. Still, the alien fleet didn't panic, not yet, but the commanders noticed something. A broken bar subtle was happening. Their own systems began to glitch, not dramatically, but enough to register discomfort. UI panels flickered, command pathways briefly rerouted. Autopilot controls hesitated for 0.3 seconds too long. It was like something was poking around inside their code, but gently, quietly, respectfully. Then it escalated. At exactly H+1 hour after the signal, 13 alien ships in low orbit abruptly realigned their thrusters up on their own. No commands were given. Their engines rotated 27 degrees downward, locking on Earth's surface for less than 3 seconds and then disengaged. The fleet centrally flagged it as a systems error. But by the time diagnostics were run, the subsystem responsible for engine vectoring had vanished, rewritten, not deleted, overwritten. It was then they realized that a broken bar they weren't in control anymore. And it all started with the signal. One signal, sent not to beg, not to scream, just to say, "We see you, and we're ready." They never saw him until it was far too late. Amid the rubble of what had once been a city center, its skyscrapers broken like snapped ribs, its streets veined with ash and silencia, an alien war squad moved cautiously, weapons scanning, sensors humming. Their technology was flawless. It detected temperature shifts, residual energy traces, even the biochemical markers left behind by fear. And yet a broken bar, it didn't see him. The human operative stood motionless in the shadows of a fractured building, completely still, cloaked not just by tech but by design. He was part of Earth's final defense, a whisper in the storm. To the aliens, this was just another sweep, another patrol confirming the enemy was truly gone. But he had been there the whole time, not hiding, awaiting, wrapped in matte black armor that bent light and cooled thermals to sub-zero. His presence was erased even from the air. The suit responded to intent, syncing with his breath, heart rate, muscle tension. His body was quiet, but his mind was fire. This operative wasn't a soldier in the traditional sense. He was a phantom, one of the few humans chosen to be more than just warriors. They were strategy wrapped in flesh, part machine, part myth, created for one purpose: not to fight the war but to finish it. Earth had long ago realized brute strength would never match the might of alien war fleets. So instead, it built ghosts, men and women trained to live in silence, in the shadows, among the dead. The kind of human who could disappear into a crowd or a battlefield and emerge when the time was right. And now, it was right. The alien squad passed beneath him, joking in their distorted, clicking language. One of them glanced toward a collapsed wall and paused, sensing a broken bar something. The operative didn't move, didn't blink. His heart rate remained steady. In his HUD, the alien's anatomy glowed faintly, marked in decades of compiled data: weak points, neural lag spots, exosuit delays, all learned from prior encounters, all predicted before the alien could even twitch. The moment came in silence. One breath, one blink, and then he dropped. By the time the first alien turned, it was already over, a blur of the motion. No gunfire, just a whisper of air and a splash of energy so refined it didn't register as a threat until four of them were already down. Precise, clean, one blow each, disabling and not killing. That was the message. That was the war. The last alien stood frozen, weapon trembling in its clawed grip. The human stepped forward slowly, visor reflecting the ruins. Then he spoke, in not loud, not threatening, just calm, cold. "Go back, tell them." Earth was never unguarded, it was just quiet. He turned and vanished into the smoke before the alien could even nod. And the galaxy, from that moment on, began whispering stories about the day Earth's ghosts began to move. The alien fleet had encountered countless civilizations, but never one like this. Never a species that went down in silence, vanished from the battlefield, and left behind no screams, only a stillness that felt too deliberate. And yet, they stood confident. Their technology had conquered empires, broken defenses forged in stars, shattered planets defended by ancient warlords. To them, Earth had been a curious anomaly, a planet full of noise and ambition but clearly underdeveloped. Their mistake wasn't attacking, their mistake was assuming the silence meant completion. Then came the glitch. It started so small it didn't even register as an attack. A targeting system on one of the lead dreadnoughts stuttered for 0.2 seconds. The crew ran diagnostics. It returned clean. Then another vessel's navigation protocol looped at YCA without external command. Shields flickered. Power readings shifted. At first, the engineers blamed solar interference. But deep down, in the quiet part of their tactical eye, a flag was raised. Something was wrong. Very wrong. By the time they realized the truth, Earth had already infected them. It wasn't malware in the traditional sense. There were no code bombs, no hacks, no flashy cyber attacks. What Earth's final defense had built was far more insidious, an adaptive mimic virus that didn't destroy enemy tech. It learned from it. It watched how the aliens moved, how their systems reacted to commands, how their fleets operated across distance. The virus was silent, passive. It copied the alien protocols bit by bit, perfectly. And then, one by one, it began to overwrite them. The beauty of it was horrifying. Earth didn't break into the system up, it became part of it. One dreadnought's I-core began executing strange power cycles. Another launched a support drone that failed to return. On the surface, alien communication hubs began relaying garbled instructions, exact copies of standard orders except they came from no known command source. Panic hadn't set in yet, but confusion had. And confusion, in war, is the first crack in the armor. The moment the aliens knew it wasn't just random failure came when an entire carrier's onboard shields inverted, redirecting internal heat against itself. It didn't explode. It didn't even fall. It simply shut down, gently, as if lulled to sleep. Engineers screamed, pilots abandoned ship, but the core remained intact, because Earth didn't want to destroy Thema, not yet. It wanted to show them. Across the fleet, whispers spread like fire. The humans were Gania, but they'd left something behind. Something intelligent, something angry, and it was crawling through their machines like a ghost in the code. Humanity hadn't just planned for the invasion, they had planned for the aftermath, for what would happen when the enemy thought they'd won. This was phase 2, not retaliation, not resistance, this was infiltration. A defense system designed not to stop an enemy from entering but to make sure that once they'd hit a broken bar they could never fully leave. And now the fleet, confident in its dominance, sat dead center in the snare. Earth's silence had never been surrender, it had been strategy. They thought they had landed on a graveyard. They thought Earth was finished, that its people had burned and its systems had gone dark. But what they failed to realize, what so many empires before them had failed to understand, was that humanity never fights its final war above the surface. It hides, it watches, it prepares, and then it unleashes ghosts. They weren't soldiers in any traditional sense. No banners, no armies, no open formations or charging battle cries. Just silence, precision, and movement so calculated it felt like the air itself was shifting. The Ghost Protocol operatives had been buried beneath the earth for weeks, some for months, awaiting for the moment the alien fleet would lower its guard. Their suits ran colder than the ambient temperature, their heartbeats controlled by neurosync tech. Their minds sharpened for one objective only: activate when the rest of the world believes you are already dead. The first appearance was not recorded on any alien surveillance drone. It wasn't supposed to be. A scout team moving through the ruins of what had once been Tokyo never reported back. No sounds, no weapons fire, just vanished. The aliens sent a follow-up team. They found nothing except their own encrypted signals bouncing back at them in perfect mimicry. Then, hours later, the same pattern repeated in Cairo, then Paris, then Johannesburg. One by one, across every continent, alien forces began encountering a broken bar. Nothing, not explosions, not armies, just silence, and the sensation of being watched. Patrols became hesitant, equipment glitched. Their own language began feeding back into their earpieces, distorted and delayed, as if someone was listening in and speaking back just slightly too late, just enough to make them doubt. Then came the strikes. Precise, lethal, efficient. One alien here, another 3 taken out without a single shot fired. Disarmed, disabled, and marked with a symbol the aliens did not recognize. But the message was clear: we see you now. Panic spread through the lower ranks. For the first time since their so-called victory, the invaders feared the shadows. Ghost Protocol wasn't just a team-up, it was a doctrine. One born in the darkest corners of human defense planning. In case of planetary loss, insert minimal, autonomous, ultra-specialized agents capable of psychological disruption and asymmetrical warfare. These weren't designed to retake Earth, they were designed to haunt it until the invaders begged to leave. Now, the galaxy watched, because alien media streams once used to show off their glorious conquest began glitching. Those same victory feeds were being hijacked, replaced, and in their place, only one thing appeared: footage of the aliens being stalked, isolated, and dismantled or broken bar by invisible enemies, by humans that no scanner could find. It was no longer a war, it was a warning, and Earth's ghosts were delivering it. The broadcast didn't scream, it didn't roar, it whispered, and that made it even more terrifying. Across the galaxy, alien citizens tuned in expecting celebration. The victory over Earth was supposed to be a broadcasted event, a show of dominance over a defiant, unruly species. Billions watched from crystal domes and orbital cities. waiting to see the conquered planet paraded as a trophy. They expected burned flags, silenced cities, and speeches from their high command. Instead, they saw a man, a human, standing alone in the ruins of what had once been a global communications center. Smoke drifted behind him, soft as fog. His face was hidden beneath a matte black visor, but his presence spoke louder than any warlord. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't shout. He just stared through the feed, as if he could see every viewer watching him, all across the stars. Then, he spoke. His voice wasn't angry, it was calm, measured, sharp as a blade drawn in silence. "You thought we were gone," he said. "You thought silence meant defeat. But we were never silent. We were listening." Across the stars, millions of alien viewers leaned forward. The feed trembled slightly, as if the very network hosting it struggled to carry the message. Behind the man, something rose slowly from the ruins. Not a ship, not a weapon, a symbol, a glowing emblem of Earth's final defense. Ancient, hidden, alive. "We let you come," he said. "We let you think you had won, because that was the only way to show you who we really are." It wasn't a speech, it was a sentence, one that echoed across every screen, every orbit, every system in the galaxy. No alien fleet could jam it, no eye could delete it, because it didn't come from Earth's remaining satellites, it came from their own. Earth's signal had hijacked the very systems the invaders used to gloat, and in that moment, the galaxy learned the truth. Earth wasn't broken, it had been watching, waiting, and now, it was speaking. The message was clear, and no Onia across all those stars could unhear it. The screen went black for a moment. Not a technical error, intentional silence. Then, slowly, the feed returned. Every alien ship, every control room, every device that had been broadcasting the so-called victory over Earth celebration was now locked onto a single transmission. No override codes worked. No commanders could cut the signal. This wasn't just a hack, it was a hijack, and it came from deep within their own systems. A still image faded into focus. A cracked Earth beneath a dim sky. Then came the voice. "You've tested humanity." The voice, the male, calm, emotionless. "You made your calculations. You counted our ships. You measured our armies. You believed we were done." The transmission cut to a chilling sight, alien patrols running through devastated cities, looking over their shoulders at shadows that moved without form. Glimpses of operatives in cloaked armor stepping between walls of fire and fog. Machines powering on from beneath oceans. Silos rising in silence, releasing nothing yet still terrifying. Across the alien fleet, the mood shifted from curiosity to confusion to outright fear. Commanders shouted, pilots scrambled, but none of them could stop the broadcast. "You forgot one thing," the voice continued. "Humans never put all their cards on the table, especially not when they know the house is rigged." What followed next wasn't a speech, it was a demonstration. Real-time footage from across the planet displayed precision strikes. Not explosive, not flashy, just clean. Alien vehicles shutting down midair, transport ships freezing in place, then slowly lowering to the ground as if obeying a master they didn't remember programming. Command posts blinking with false data. Systems running perfect simulations that led to their own undoing. It wasn't chaos, it was orchestration, and it was terrifying in its clarity. A sudden visual shifted to a high-orbit alien cruiser, one of their pride ships, spinning slowly, helplessly, as if the crew had forgotten how to steer. A single human operative stood on its hull, magnetically anchored, holding nothing but a data spike. The ship's lights dimmed. Then, in the dead silence of space, it powered off entirely. No explosion, no rescue, just quiet surrender. "Touch another human," the voice warned, "and next time a broken bar we won't aim to miss." Gasps echoed across alien broadcast halls. Leaders leaned back in stunned silence. Civilian viewers sat frozen in domes and habitats light years away. This wasn't the sound of desperation, it was a line being drawn, the kind of line that civilizations remember for generations. Earth had been hit, Earth had bled, but Earth had not begged, it had not broken. The voice, softer now, spoke once more. "We were always watching, always planning. We didn't fight back right away because we wanted you to come closer. We wanted you to feel safe, to get comfortable." And now a broken bar. The image cut to a panoramic shot from space. Earth's surface lit up and hot with fire. but with signals. Points of light forming a perfect grid. Not a weapon strike here but a message to the galaxy. A wordless symbol glowing from pole to pole. We are not prey. And then, the feed ended. No warning, no explanation. Just a return to silence here this time, on the alien side. Their ships, their networks, their fleet sat quiet. For the first time in their empire's history a broken bar, they had no idea what to do next. They came with fire and fury, and they expected to leave with silence. But as the last alien ship turned to retreat, limping out of Earth's atmosphere with systems flickering and fleets in disarray, a strange thing happened. The clouds, still thick with smoke from their own destruction, began to part, not by weather, but by intention, as if Earth itself was opening a path, not in mercy, in message. Beneath them, on the surface, the human figure stood alone in a field of ruin. No reinforcements, no weapons drawn, just standing, watching. And beside them, a single device blinked on Sia, just on Sia, and transmitted a brief pulse into the sky. Not an attack, not a demand, a signal. One that pierced their failing comms, overrode their sensors, and displayed a final image on every surviving screen. The human symbol for home. There were no words, no last-minute threats, no cinematic vengeance, just one unshakable truth, the one that echoed louder than any weapon ever could. We're still here. As the alien fleet slipped into the upper stratosphere, they looked back one final time, not in triumph, not even in anger, but in understanding, because they had miscalculated the heart of their enemy. They had conquered planets before, extinguished species, erased resistance, but never had they faced a world that let them win the first round only to unleash something greater in the second. Humanity hadn't stopped them with armies, they hadn't stopped them with shields. They stopped them with resolve, with patience, silence, and a level of calculated defiance so deep, so unrelenting, it rewrote what the galaxy thought possible. And as that fleet disappeared into the stars, the galaxy shifted. The message was already spreading to every corner of space, faster than ships could fly. Don't provoke Earth, don't test them again, because the next time, there would be no mercy.